Economic effects of climate change. So for context, what is climate change? Climate change is a change in the usual weather found in a place. This could be a change in how much rain a place usually gets in a year, or it could be a change in a place's usual temperature for a month or season. Climate change can also refer to change in Earth's overall climate. This could be a change in Earth's usual temperature, or it could be a change in where rain and snow usually fall on Earth, as well as the severity of such weather. So how does climate change impact shipping and transport? Climate change economically impacts transportation by increasing maintenance, operation, rehabilitation, and repairman costs of transportation infrastructure. Climate change can also increase the cost of new transportation infrastructure because there are now higher climate-adaptable design standards. It also increases infrastructure replacement costs by increasing the rate of wear and tear. But remember, it's a two-way relationship. A 2014 study concluded that shipping could represent some 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. And shipping also contributes to climate change through emissions of black carbon, which are tiny black particles produced by the combustion of marine fuel. So it's definitely a two-way relationship. So, adverse effects of climate change on maritime transport. I mentioned some of these earlier, but yes. Because ice continues to melt around the North Pole due to global warming, sea levels are rising. Coastal erosion is getting worse, and sedimentation patterns are changing. These significant changes have largely impacted ship channels specifically. Because of this, existing routes are no longer safe or easy to traverse as they were before, so new courses have to be planned. And this means the new courses are often less effective than the original courses, meaning increased costs of doing so. So yes, harsh conditions like extended periods of severe weather can lead to prolonged travels and less cost-effective shipping routes. And lastly, extreme events of rainfall and other similar storms can delay other essential tasks of shipping, like the unloading and loading of cargo and shipment when they reach ports, like you see on the right here. But what about land transportation? Bridges are often only designed to withstand storms that have a probability of occurring only once or twice every 100 years. But thanks to climate change, historical climate is changing so rapidly that it's no longer a reliable predictor of future risk, meaning our new bridges may no longer be able to withstand our newly more powerful storms, and especially the older bridges, when you think about it that way. So, what can we do? What steps are being taken? In April 2018, the International Maritime Organization agreed to a draft greenhouse gas strategy for shipping, requiring the shipping sector of international transport to reduce its emissions by at least 50% by 2050. If you remember that it was originally estimated that shipping would make up 10. If they cut their emissions by 50%, it would be only 5% of carbon emissions, which is a large change in what is the originally prospected numbers. So that's a hopeful idea. So why does this matter? How can climate change be seen impacting things in action? Recently, the world saw the ship Ever Given become stuck in the Suez Canal. The New York Times reported that the cause of this could be that winds in excess of 70 miles per hour blew in the region where Ever Given became stuck. And the owner of the ship, BSM, said that the initial investigation suggests the vessel grounded due to strong wind. The strong winds were accompanied by large amounts of sand and dust. It was basically a sandstorm, which reduced visibility and made navigation incredibly challenging. This is significant because winds this strong are extremely uncommon in the region, but it is worth noting that strong winds have delayed shipping traffic or closed the Suez Canal on at least 2 other occasions. And after the ship Ever Given was stuck, scientists began to point fingers towards climate change. because one of the major effects of climate change is increasingly harsh weather. On the graph on the left, you can see small black tick marks. Those are wind directional tick marks. They indicate the direction of the wind at the time. As you can see here, the winds were swirling in circular motions, creating almost small vortexes of incredibly powerful wind. Scientists suggest that the circular winds could have spun Ever Given, increasing her chances of becoming stuck. This, as well as scientists have explained this, as well as a phenomenon called the bank effect, where the water speeds up between the boat and the bank, and the pressure drops, and the stern is pulled into the bank, and while the boat is pushed, and the bow is pushed away from the shore, which basically continues to spin the ship. That plus the incredibly high wind speeds that were completely atypical to the area, could have been major factors in the grounding of Ever Given. However, it's also important to consider conditions before the ship grounded. On the left here, you can see the temperature in the area. Before the sandstorm, nearby areas recorded temperatures of up to 111.2 degrees Fahrenheit. That is incredibly hot. Extreme heat dries soil. It also lowers canal water levels and more readily enables sandstorms because there's no vegetation alive to hold the sand down. The area also, if you see at the top, dipped into the opposite kind of weather on the 23rd when a cold front came through. The back-to-back temperature changes created unusual weather pressure, which could have made the sandstorm's severity increase significantly. So yes, the graph on the right shows the extreme temperatures the area around the Suez experienced on the day the ship ran aground. Both extreme weather, drastic changes of temperature in an area, and temperatures being more extreme are all side effects of climate change, which is leading scientists to point towards climate change as a cause for the Ever Given becoming stuck. But why did that blockage matter? When Ever Given got stuck in the Suez Canal, it blocked a major port that connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Gulf of Suez, which allows ships to avoid traveling all the way around Africa, which is a long and expensive journey. When Ever Given was stuck for just 6 days, she cost up to $9 billion a day, being stuck and preventing other traffic from moving through. This brought to light the vulnerability of the global food system in particular, and also the global economy to disruptions. This was also particularly damaging right now because it strains supply chains that are already burdened by coronavirus and that whole pandemic thing that's happening. And it's also not just the Suez that will end up being burdened as a whole bunch of ships try and come through. All of the ports that welcome the ships that come through the Suez will now be strained as well as they attempt to host more ships so we can get out of this backlog. About 12% of global trade goes through the Suez Canal, which allowed nearly 19,000 vessels last year to pass through between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. It's an incredibly important port, and a lot of international shipping relies on it. So that is why it was so important. But what about my opinion? I have a little bit more of a personal reason here. My dad works at FedEx as a ramp agent, which means he's outside in all of the weather every night. And also the well-being of the shipping industry, aka how well FedEx is doing, directly impacts my family's well-being and how well my family is doing, which kind of means I need to see it do well. I need it to be going strong. And also my dad works nights at FedEx on the ramp, and I often worry about him when Memphis experiences extreme weather, because climate change means heat waves will be more severe and precipitation will be more intense. I'm nervous about that, especially considering Memphis's giant ice storm. My dad worked just about every night out there in those negative degree weather. I don't want him out in that dangerous weather. Also, shipping plays a large part of my daily life. I consume a lot of goods that come from overseas because we live in a global world. The food I eat, the clothes I wear, the technology I use, shipping impacts all of that, which is why it's incredibly important to me that shipping continues to function despite the challenges provided by climate change.